Ted Bundy is one of the most infamous serial killers in modern history, known for his charm, good looks, and brutal killings. Over the course of 4 years, he murdered dozens of women across multiple states, leaving behind a trail of terror. But Bundy wasn't just a cold-blooded killer. He also maintained long-term relationships with women who loved him, even as his dark side remained hidden.
He was really rather gifted at seeing what you might need him to be and being that.
Ted Bundy was born Theodore Robert Cowell on November 24, 1946, in Burlington, Vermont. His mother, Eleanor Louise Cowell, was unmarried, and for the first few years of his life, Ted was raised by his grandparents in Philadelphia under the belief that they were his parents, and his mother was his sister. When Bundy learned the truth, it deeply affected his sense of identity. He later moved with his mother to Tacoma, Washington, where she married Johnny Bundy, a hospital cook, who formally adopted Ted. Bundy grew up in an ordinary middle-class household, but according to friends and family, he was often emotionally distant and struggled to form deep connections. Despite this, he was regarded as intelligent and well-mannered. Bundy attended the University of Washington, where he studied Chinese and later psychology. He was known to be a fairly good student, but classmates described him as introverted, rarely socializing. One former professor noted that Bundy had a mask of sanity, hiding his true self behind a polite and well-spoken demeanor. Even during this period, Bundy had already begun acting out in ways that foreshadowed his future crimes, such as shoplifting and peeping into windows. By the early 1970s, Bundy began what would become one of the most horrifying killing sprees in history. Here is a chronological list of Ted Bundy's confirmed victims, including brief details of their lives and what they were doing the day they were murdered. Karen Sparks, attacked on January 4, 1974. A 23-year-old student at the University of Washington, Karen was asleep in her basement apartment when Bundy broke in and beat her with a metal rod. She survived, but was left with permanent brain damage.
He came into my home, took a bed frame off of my bed, and smashed my skull.
Linda Ann Healy disappeared on January 31st, 1974. A 21-year-old college student who worked as a morning weather broadcaster, Linda was taken from her room while asleep. She was a psychology major at the University of Washington, and on the day she disappeared, she had gone to class and a family dinner before heading home. Donna Gail Manson, last seen on March 12, 1974. A 19-year-old student at Evergreen State College, Donna was an intelligent and independent woman who enjoyed classical music and philosophy. She was walking to a concert on campus when she vanished. Susan Rancourt disappeared on April 17, 1974. An 18-year-old first-year student at Central Washington State College, Susan was majoring in biology and had aspirations of becoming a veterinarian. She disappeared while heading to a dorm advisor meeting after a night of studying. Roberta Kathleen Parks, last seen on May 6, 1974. A 22-year-old student at Oregon State University, Roberta had recently returned to school after dealing with personal family issues. She was on her way to meet friends for coffee when she disappeared. Brenda Carol Ball, last seen on June 1st, 1974. A 22-year-old who was known for her free-spirited nature, Brenda had been out at a local bar in Burien, Washington. She was last seen in the parking lot asking for a ride home. Jorgan Hawkins disappeared on June 11, 1974. An 18-year-old University of Washington student and a member of the Kappa Alpha Theta sorority, Jorgan was heading back to her sorority house after visiting her boyfriend when she vanished. She had an exam the next day. Janice Ott, abducted on July 14, 1974, Lake Sammamish State Park. A 23-year-old probation caseworker, Janice had gone to the park for a day of sunbathing. Bundy lured her into his car by pretending to have a broken arm and asking for help with his sailboat. Denise Naslund, abducted on July 14, 1974, Lake Sammamish State Park. A 19-year-old computer programming student, Denise was at the park with friends on the same day as Janice Ott. She went to use the restroom and never returned. Nancy Wilcox, last seen on October 2, 1974. A 16-year-old high school student in Holiday, Utah, Nancy was last seen walking near her home, where she planned to meet friends. She was bright and outgoing, hoping to become a nurse one day. Melissa Smith disappeared on October 18, 1974. A 17-year-old high school student and the daughter of a local police chief, Melissa was last seen leaving a pizza parlor. She was known to be friendly and kind-hearted. Laura Amy, last seen on October 31, 1974. A 17-year-old high school student, Laura had spent Halloween evening with friends. She was last seen leaving a cafe in Lehi, Utah. Debbie Kent disappeared on November 8, 1974. A 17-year-old high school student, Debbie disappeared from the parking lot of her school in Bountiful, Utah, after attending a play with her parents. Karen Campbell disappeared on January 12, 1975. A 23-year-old nurse from Michigan, Karen was vacationing at a ski resort in Aspen, Colorado, with her fiancé. She disappeared while returning to her room from the hotel lobby. Julie Cunningham, last seen on March 15, 1975. A 26-year-old ski instructor, Julie was on her way to meet a friend for dinner in Vail, Colorado, when Bundy abducted her. Denise Oliverson disappeared on April 6, 1975. A 25-year-old Grand Junction, Colorado resident, Denise was last seen riding her bike to visit her parents after an argument with her husband. Lynette Culver, last seen on May 6, 1975. A 12-year-old girl from Pocatello, Idaho, Lynette was last seen at school. She was abducted while walking home. Susan Curtis disappeared on June 28, 1975. A 15-year-old from Bountiful, Utah, Susan disappeared while attending a youth conference at Brigham Young University. Margaret Bowman, killed on January 15, 1978, Chi Omega sorority. A 21-year-old student at Florida State University, Margaret was killed while asleep in her sorority house. Lisa Levy, killed on January 15, 1978, Chi Omega sorority. A 20-year-old student at Florida State University, Lisa was also killed in her bed in the Chi Omega house. Kimberly Leach, abducted and murdered on February 9, 1978. A 12-year-old middle school student in Lake City, Florida, Kimberly was abducted from her school. She was Bundy's last known victim. Ted Bundy's romantic relationships only add to the twisted nature of his story. One of the most significant relationships in his life was with Elizabeth Klopfer, a single mother he dated for nearly 7 years. Klopfer had deep suspicions about Bundy, even turning him into the police at one point, but she remained conflicted due to his charm and her feelings for him.
There are all these coincidences. It's like I couldn't let it go. It scared me out of my wits.
Another woman, Carol Ann Boone, became involved with Bundy later, standing by him even during his trial. Incredibly, she married Bundy while he was on death row and even had a child with him. Bundy's ability to manipulate those closest to him reveals another layer of his sinister personality. A man who could charm anyone while hiding his violent tendencies. Bundy's crime spree came to a close after a botched kidnapping attempt in Utah led to his arrest. However, he escaped custody twice before being recaptured in Florida. His most infamous trial occurred in 1979 for the murders of 2 women in the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University. Bundy's trials were highly publicized, and he even served as his own defense attorney. In 1980, he was sentenced to death for the murder of Kimberly Leach, and in 1989, Bundy was executed in the electric chair at Florida State Prison. Ted Bundy's story is one of brutality and deception. Behind his outward charm, he harbored dark desires that claimed the lives of at least 30 women. His crimes shocked the nation, but perhaps most chilling was the way he maintained relationships with women who never suspected the true monster he was. In our next video, we'll take a deeper dive into Bundy's long-term relationships, exploring how he managed to manipulate and maintain the trust of those closest to him, while leading a double life as one of America's most dangerous killers. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it, and let us know in the comments what you think about Bundy's ability to live a normal life while committing such horrific crimes.